Good morning. It's the first.
Good morning.
It's apparently the first first Saturday of summer this morning. I don't know. My pool is not open, but it's going to be really nice. And for those of you who are mothers or have mothers, have a wonderful Mother's Day tomorrow as well. We have a great crowd. I'm going to start with some introductions. My name is Tiffany Moore. I am the at-large board member on the Waldo Tower Neighborhood Association, and then I'm going to ask each of our other board members to stand and introduce themselves as well. Elizabeth, you want to start there in the back?
Sure, I'm Elizabeth Collins, and I'm the treasurer.
Frank?
My name is Frank Serino. I'm the Director of Marketing for the association.
Helen or Natalie? Yes.
I'm Helen Fabian, and I have no idea what my title is. On the board.
And then we have some of our membership committee. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves as well?
Eleni Costas, membership committee. Emily Lord's membership committee.
All right, did I miss anyone? I think that we did have a number of folks out of town. This is graduations and move in and move out for college and all kinds of things. So they'll be at our next meeting for sure. I also want to introduce, we have a couple of officers from the police department with us today. So we have Police Officer David Ferber, who is the Community Interaction Officer from Metro Patrol, and Captain Cologne, who is the new day shift captain at Metro Patrol. And I don't know what your time commitment is this morning, but if you wanted to stick with us the whole time, that's great. If you wanted to say a few things and then have other obligations, you're welcome to do that as well. All right. So then we're going to go ahead and kick off our meeting. We have a couple of topics that we're going to touch on and a few things at the end. We're going to start with a discussion that many of you are probably aware of, where Waldo sort of initiated a conversation with the city and the police department about what is it that we're doing to try and improve the safety and security of residents and business owners and operators within the city. Then we're going to talk a little bit about PIAC, because it is PIAC season, and WTA has always done a lot of things around PIAC requests, and if you don't know what that is, great, we'll explain that in a few minutes. And then we'll get to a few additional announcements and things at the end. So without further chatter, I'll introduce Frank, who is going to take us through this topic.
Can everybody see the screen okay? We can dim the lights if you can't. So
I'll do that.
Just let me know. It's just one of the switches will dim them halfway. Again, my name is Frank Serino. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Waldo Tower Neighborhood Association. I want to take a few minutes to talk about our community updates, specifically when we're talking about neighborhood crime and emergency responses here in Waldo. Just a show of hands, has anybody been a victim of a property crime here in Waldo in the past 2 years? Anybody know of someone who's been a victim of property crime in Waldo? Quite a few of you. What I want to go through today is a series of events that we've been facing over the past couple years. We all know that crime has been increasing in Kansas City, and specifically in our neighborhoods. We're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about what our response is as the Waldo Neighborhood Association, Waldo Tower Neighborhood Association, back to our city leaders. We've heard a lot of chatter. We've heard a lot of talk over the past 5 years about what's going to be done, what's being done. But we want to take it a step further, so I want to kind of walk you through this. Rising crime in Waldo. It's no surprise. We're seeing a tremendous amount of break-ins, car break-ins, auto thefts, burglaries. We're seeing people now using handguns when they're stealing from our neighbors and friends. This is somewhat of a new trend for us. We haven't really seen armed robbers facing off with homeowners. Gunfire, just recently, within the past month, there was an attempted car theft that was interrupted, which resulted in the perpetrators firing back at the neighbors. Shots in trees, shots in the house. Armed teens targeting vehicles, robbing people in broad daylight. Here's some crime statistics over the past 5 going on 6 years. When you look at your property crimes here in Kansas City, 31% increase over the past 5+ years. Car thefts up 138%. So this isn't something that we're making up, right? We're not just saying, oh, I see people posting on social media, I see people posting on Facebook. They're just making it up. No, these are true statistics that we're facing. What's the impact on our businesses? We'll talk about our neighborhoods here in just a second. As part of the Waldo Tower Neighborhood Association, I am a liaison back to the Waldo Area Business Association, and I attend their property committee meetings every month. And the number one topic we talk about is crime that's affecting the Waldo businesses. So what does that mean for us? Well, guess what? You get broken into once, you get broken into twice. Are you thinking this is a safe neighborhood? Do you want to stay here in our neighborhood? These are small, family-owned businesses, and we need them. We want them to be a part of Waldo. That's what makes us very unique. And they're facing tremendous challenges. They're doing what they can with cameras and improved lighting and trying to coordinate amongst themselves and amongst our government entities to find a solution. What can we do? We've talked about it ad nauseum, about what we need city leaders to do and what the businesses can do. They're pulling their weight. They're spending thousands and thousands of dollars trying to improve their locations to stop crime and prevent crime, and to be a partner with law enforcement to give them videos when something happens. But it's still not enough. Again, I do partner with WABA, the Waldo Area Business Association, and there is now a process in place that the mayor has brought forward within the past few months, that if there is some type of property crime at the business, there is some compensation with that fund, the Back to Business Fund. It's limited and it's not enough to cover everything that happens here in Kansas City and here in Waldo, but it's at least something moving forward, and we're blessed that they have that ability to recoup those losses. Emergency response times. Anybody called 911 or the non-emergency number recently?
3.5 minutes on hold.
How long were you guys on hold? Just
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
9.
9 minutes. Is that acceptable to anyone here?
No.
So just this week I called. It was a non-emergency, but there was a legal activity. 17 minutes on hold, no one ever picked up. That was my drive from near the plaza all the way out to my house here in South Waldo. No response. I just had to hang up the phone because I was already at my destination. We're not the only ones concerned about this. This has been an ongoing issue for years and years and years. They're short-staffed. They don't have enough operators. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They don't have enough resources to make sure that there's a body in the seat to answer the calls. Now, we can talk about why that is, but we're really talking about some of the symptoms first, okay? When you're short-staffed, you get calls all the time. What do you think is going to happen? We're going to have to wait. And as we'll hear with our officers that are here, and in discussion with them, I met with them last week and I had a great conversation. They're very frank and candid about what's going on. They're pulled in every direction. They do not have enough officers in the field. And when there's a hot spot, they'll go. And they're trying to redistribute the resources that they have to make sure that the reported crime has the right response. And so if they're pulling away from one sector or one district, well, guess what? When you call, you finally get through. Why does it take so long for someone to get there? They might be in North Kansas City for all we know, because there's something very, very serious going on up there. Or maybe our sector officers are over in the plaza fighting something there, and someone has to come from North Kansas City to help us. That's the current state of where we're at. I want to talk about the collaboration that we've had with not only us, the community, but also with our government officials. These are just some of the outlined agenda items that we've had ongoing for, 5, 10 years. We talk about we need an increased police presence. We need more detectives to come and take reports and fight those property crimes that we have. Again, these all work hand in hand. So look at this as, if one of them falls down, they all fall down, okay? We need to look at prevention. If we're not looking at grants, if we're not looking at the neighborhood watches that include us, we have to participate too, right? And I'll get to that in just a second. We have to have the emergency response times. We have to have better communication. Not communication with just us and law enforcement. Amongst law enforcement themselves, there are gaps where they've identified that they need to have better communication so that they can reallocate the resources. And then last, we need to talk about the long-term focus with our youth, our youngsters, the mental health and housing support with houseless individuals. Those all play a part. They're all hand in hand. And if you take away, let's just say we don't tackle mental health and houselessness, well, what do we do now with houseless individuals who maybe are breaking the law? We arrest them, put them in a jail. It's probably one of the worst places they could be. We don't give them any mental health treatment whatsoever because we don't have a facility. We don't have the funding for it. And guess what? In 24 hours, they're back on the street. The police are extremely frustrated with that because here they're spending their time just doing the same thing over and over and over with individuals that we know need help, and we're not giving them the help. And so if this falls down, all of that falls down too. So again, keep that in mind as we talk about what we need to do as a society here in Kansas City, Missouri. This past week, April 26th, the Waldo Tower Neighborhood Association put out a formal statement. I don't know if you saw it on social media. I have hard copies in the back on the table. You're more than happy to take them. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'm going to go through some of the highlights of what we, as the board and our president, Angie Lyle, has sent out not only to our chief of police, our mayor, our city council, and our state representatives, because we're at a point where we have to have accountability. And I put the definition up here so that we all understand what needs to happen for the people who can make this happen, right? We're just a part of it. We've been asking for this for years and years and years. And the police department is frustrated because they can't get the resources. They can't get the help from the prosecutors to make these charges stick. And the prosecutors are arguing amongst themselves. Who is accountable? Who is it? Does anybody have a guess? The mayor, city council, us, me? Is it the state? Is it the governor who controls the police board of commissioners? Who is it? That's part of the rub. No one is taking accountability. No one's saying the buck stops here. I'm going to lead this charge. We're going to make it happen. Our city leaders control the levers, right? We can blame Jefferson City. Oh gosh, that governor just isn't helping us. Well, why isn't the city council and the mayor and the directors of all of these different departments traveling to Jeff City every week and saying this is an urgent situation? It's been ongoing for years, decades, if you've lived here that long, but it's getting worse. The statistics prove that. It's proven out by what we see and what we hear. The city leaders have the mechanisms, the funding, they have the connections, they have the relationships. They know, based on those 4 or 5 bullet points on the slide before, how to make these things happen. Well, what's the plan? In our statement, we talked about we want an increase in additional units and detectives in Waldo. It's time. We've been asking for it for way too long. And so we've asked within the next 60 days to have an increase in patrols, an increase in detectives that can come tackle the property crimes. Because we're like you, we're so frustrated because we've asked and asked and asked, and we hear everything, but again, it comes down to accountability and action. We want to have the improved emergency responses. We want to have a reduction in 911 and the non-emergency call times. Make it happen. We know what the problem is. We do not have enough bodies in the seats. When we elect our city officials, when we hire city directors, when we appoint people for those roles, what are we asking them to do? This is what we ask them to do. That's why they're in those roles. We're asking for additional funding for the security improvements. Talking about the grants that we talked about, we want further grants. We're asking for additional help to help us combat all of the crime that's happening. And we want that done quickly within the next 30 days. And we want to know about it. We don't want it just released and it's not out there for us to go and search and hunt on some website. And we want to have regular city meetings. about public safety. Did anybody attend the Brookside and Waldo Business Association open forum at Research Baptist back in August? It was kind of a meeting of the minds. There were city leaders there. The police department was there. There were several hundred residents from Brookside and Waldo. This was right after the murder of the owner of the restaurant there at Rock Hill and 63rd. Yeah, thank you. And then after that, crickets. As best I can tell, I didn't know there was another open public meeting, but there were. Did anybody know about that? Did anybody go? So that's something that we're going to help tackle, that the association will. Bottom line is we need to know what the plan is. We want to know what the timelines are that you have to implement all of those different changes that we've asked for years to do. And in the end, you got to get it done. You got to get it done. That's what we've talked about for way too long. And so that's what our statement from the association, based on your comments all of these months about we have to do something. We're asking our leaders to get it done. But that doesn't mean that you and I can sit back and moan and groan and kind of be noise, right? That's not going to work. There are things that we can do. And some of this information I'm going to share with you was brought to us by our friends in law enforcement. They need our help. They can only do so much. And so over the next couple slides, you're going to see what you and I can do as well. You have to voice your opinion. Social media is not going to get you there, right? I'm the old man standing on my corner yelling at the clouds when I'm on social media. That's what that's about. When I'm out there talking about how bad it is and how I need this and we need that, you've got to voice your opinion. You need to keep coming to these meetings. We'll talk about some of the public meetings that are coming up with city leaders that you can attend and you can voice your opinion. There are quarterly meetings, public forums with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, which I truly did not know about. But I know about them now, and I'm going to go. I want to be a part of this ongoing discussion to help law enforcement, to help us. I can't blame the officers. They run from call to call to call. They don't have any time. They're in and they're out. They're working overtime. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit of how overwhelmed they are. There is a monthly meeting with the Metro Patrol. It was a leadership meeting. I went last week. Our officers here were there. We had a wonderful discussion. And we had just released our statement, and I'm sure they thought I was going to come and just scream and holler and just be the worst citizen ever. And it's not like that. It's not like that. We want them to succeed. We want them in our neighborhoods. So what can we do to do that? We'll continue to attend these meetings. I've committed to doing that myself, and if I can, I'll ask one of our board members to do that. And I'm going to share some of the results of what we talked about, because it's important that we hear back from law enforcement as to what they're doing and what can we do. And correct me if any of the information that you see is incorrect. I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can. There is a police board of commissioners meeting on May 27th. Has anybody ever been to one of those meetings before? Do you even know about it? I'm going to go. Never been. And I'm going to read this statement. Now, it's 3 pages long. They give me 2 minutes. I can talk pretty fast, but I can't talk that fast. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the highlights of what we're asking for. I want the mayor. I want the police chief. I want this board of commissioners to hear from me, a Waldo resident, 25 years here, who may or may not know anything about the neighborhood. I want them to understand that we're tired and we're done with excuses. And I'll share that with them on the 27th. I talk about social media. I'm on social media. It's a wonderful platform. But if you do not call the police and report crimes, there's no crime. Let me say that again. If you don't call the police and tell them about a crime, the crime didn't occur because you didn't tell them. They don't know. They're statistically, analytically driven on many of the endeavors that they work on to help us. If you see something, call the police. We have to help them with recruitment. They're short-staffed. They've been telling this to us, to the police chief, to anyone who listened for years. Now, let me go back a little bit. Recruitment is up, and you're getting better candidates for the roles, but they need our help. I think somebody might have taken it. If you did, I might need that back. There was a sheet back on the table that talked about police recruitment, and they're asking us to help them, right? Do we know of someone who is even interested in law enforcement? What's the starting recruitment salary? $65,000? $65,000 as a recruit. If you know of someone who's even considering it, make sure they get the information. Ask them to apply to the police department. They get many candidates, but they're very, very thorough about who they want to be as an officer in their police force, which is what we want. We don't want the wrong police officers out there. We need good people. And so help us try to find those if you can. Again, it's to our benefit. Over the past couple of weeks, our board has been discussing what can we do, right? We meet once in a while, right? And we sit here and hash it out, and we hear all the things that are going on in our neighborhood. And going into that monthly meeting with Kansas City, Missouri Police, other associations here in Kansas City, Missouri are asked to join us as well. But we notice there's a huge lack of communication between ourselves. And we all face the same things, right? Rising crime. It's the number one topic. When I went to the meeting, they talked about, well, they might have been talking about some speed bumps they wanted on some streets, some very unique niche things that they wanted in their neighborhood. But crime is if not the number one, certainly the top two. How can we better associate ourselves with those neighborhood associations and come together as one voice? Maybe there are coalitions out there. Does anybody know of a coalition of associations? I know Tiffany mentioned it earlier to me. I didn't know that. How do we work together as not just neighborhood associations, as one voice and say, we have a statement here that we're asking for 4 or 5 different things. These neighborhood associations want the same thing. We're going to try to build that association so that we can put more pressure on our city leaders and lean into them more. Again, we're not trying to be confrontational. We've tried for many, many years to work hand in hand and try to be the best stewards of what we can do here. But we need more, and we need it quickly, because it's not getting any better, it's getting worse fast. So we'll continue to reach out and try to build those relationships with other associations and relate that back to you. If we have to be a central hub for information, if, say, I go to that informational meeting and other associations can't go, how does the information get back to them? It doesn't. But this is important information. Again, it's all about community and togetherness. We can do this. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be as quick as we think we can do it. But if we just do our part, like I said, individually do your part, we'll get there. But we have to do it, because we're not getting it done now. I know Waldo will come through. They've come through everything that I've ever asked them to do. Here with the board or in my personal life with potholes. You guys have helped me with that. Thank you. I want to go back to some of the notes that I took at that monthly community leadership meeting. I want to share it back out to you, right? It's great that I go and I sit there and I say terrible things are terrible in Waldo, but I want you guys to kind of hear and see what we're talking about. And again, correct me if I misstate anything here, please. There are initiatives underway to try to deal with the sideshows and the street racing. This was implemented, I believe, last summer. Traffic sector group, is that kind of the good enough? They are trying to stop it. The current policy is to not chase these vehicles, right? The criminals know this, right? Cops are coming after me, psst, I'm gone. Well, that might be changing. That might be changing. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'll leave that up to you. That opens us up to catching more criminals, but also putting other people in danger. So it's a trade-off if that occurs. You have to continue to call the police if there's shots fired. Street racing, sideshows. They don't log it. If you don't log it with the police, then it's not occurring and the resources can't be allocated to where the problem is. Yes, please.
They want us to call it in 911 or 311?
So that's a good point. Shots fired is a 911 call. Bottom line, I'm guilty of not doing that. I mean, I hear a magazine popped off over east of my house, and 12, 14 shots, whatever it is. I don't want to tie up 911. I just want them to know and log it. But I'll call 911 now. All right. What would you guys say as a sideshow or street racing?
I mean, especially with the shots fired, we recommend calling 911 because what that does is that dispatches, that's our top priority call that comes out. So we'll start sending officers to that area, which is good because what if there was a homicide that occurred, somebody has been shot or injured, and we already have officers en route. If you don't call 911, shots fired, then that takes longer for the officers to get there because somebody has to call 911 that the shooting has already occurred. That person probably could have been saved that earlier 911.
When it comes to traffic complaints and stuff like that, there's a couple different ways to do it. I mean, if it's urgent, like an emergency or something like that, of course 911, but there are two ways to kind of report these kind of things. And some of it is just technology. On our KCPD website, there is a drop-down menu for certain complaints. One of them is designated for traffic. And that is a direct drop to our traffic unit, their investigators. And they track and log everything across the city. They prioritize from there, depending on the severity and whatnot. There's also 311. That's kind of a catch-all, and we get into that later for things that are specifically rated for 311. But that traffic complaint thing on our website, KC website, it is a big deal. Because that's oftentimes I just came from the city as liaison for the last couple of years, and I monitored 311 complaints. Anything public safety related would get filtered through me. And those traffic related complaints, I would in turn educate the individual, find the complaint. It's like, here's a good way to do it, because getting to me is just pointing out the process, and then I would go in and enter that myself into the KCPD website, because that's kind of the parent resource for collecting.
The reason I ask is because a lot of times, I mean, the area that I live in is basically the sound tunnel. I can hear stuff going on when I slow car. I mean, when I hear shots fired, I can just say it's south and east. It's far away. It could be pretty far away. So that's why.
Sorry.
No, good questions.
What you said about if you call 911 and police are sent as a response and somebody has been shot, that more likely to be safe. Is that because those police are trained in
Yes.
assisting?
Yeah, in assisting, we have to do life safety training, all that, the academy.
Good questions, and thank you for the comments.
I'm a little, maybe I misunderstand the things that should be reported as 311 versus the non-emergency police line. My thought of 311 is grass is too tall in somebody's yard, or there's we can report potholes directly, or my trash wasn't picked up, those types of things. But is 311 used to report current occurrences of things?
I'll let the officer speak, but
Yeah, anything of a public safety nature, my definition of public safety, as far as the highest priority, is life.
Right, sure.
Life and property. Those other items like tall grass, whatnot, I just know, having come from the city, that a lot of people report things through social media thinking that it's 911.
Right.
Or the 311 because they think it's 911 or a version of it. And so as a catch-all, stuff gets still filtered to us. But your primary point of entry for something that's life or property is going to be 911.
When would the tipping point be for the non-emergency line versus 911? Isn't there a non-emergency?
Well, there's a non-emergency line. If nobody's life is in danger.
Okay.
That's like you got neighbors arguing about trespassing. You got a nuisance neighbor that's got cars in your driveway.
I'm just looking at the app, like, if you go to put in suspected drug house, it says call. So would that be non-emergent versus 911, or do you call 911 like?
So like sideshows, street racing, that's a non-emergency because I mean, there's not gunshots and are lives in danger? Probably yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You see them going to people's yards or somebody possibly get hit, and I would call 911.
Okay. One more question.
Gunshots, 911. I live in an area that has a bar very close. New Year's Eve, Super Bowl, you name it, you're gonna hear shots going up to the parking lot or wherever they shoot. There are guns, no one reports it because they know these people at the bar are gonna do this every holiday,
Right.
football event, 4th of July. So, now as far as I know, they never hit anybody.
In the past, the bullets
But
have
still,
they have hit
you
people.
want to call to let people know that these people are shooting guns off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Wherever.
if it's coming from the bar, because then the city codes can get involved and they can do their own investigations.
Well, that's the only place they could be open there that time of night.
Yeah, yeah. That's all.
And they have a large parking lot in that, now I don't know which direction they shoot, I have to assume that way. You know, I've never heard of anybody's house getting hit, car, dog, person, but they are shooting.
And they do.
Celebratory gunfire, but still
That
reports
is not allowed, yeah.
Clears law.
Yeah, because, you know, none of the neighbors have ever reported it, because it's just like.
Right.
Like,
It's
oh, yeah,
it,
no.
it's just it's the norm, right? It's just the norm. We know it's going to happen, and you
It's the
don't.
norm, you know, like I said, you can count on it, New Year's, Super Bowl, 4th of July, any other big, World Series, you know, you're gonna hear it. Somebody's
Good points.
birthday over there.
I'll be very candid. When I worked all those events those evenings, when it's around midnight, I find a bridge or a car wash behind it. Because my police cars had it from dropping bullets.
Yep.
I've had the windshields and stuff like that hit. I've seen people get hit. I've seen property damage, stuff like that. So report it absolutely.
We will,
Because,
and
I mean, things do happen in a negative manner. Yeah.
And I will let, you know, the neighbors know also.
Again, if you don't,
Well, then the more people.
right. If you don't report it, it's not happening. We all know it's happening, but if you don't report it, it's not happening.
You know, we got to where that's just normal in the neighborhood, but I'll tell them.
Good questions. When you talk about the deficiency of officers and the high call volumes, I mentioned this earlier, and this is just a restatement. It's call, when you clock in, call to call to call to call to call to call. I'd love to have an officer just drive through my neighborhood, just randomly, just looking for stuff. Why doesn't that happen? Call to call to call to call to call. They don't have time. I mean, sure, they could just cruise my neighborhood, but they're not taking calls from you coming to your house to help out with something. So that's why you don't see them just casually driving around, just doing what we think they should be doing, looking for suspicious activity. Just a couple more points here. There are new special deployments coming for Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And that's underway, which is great to hear. That's typically when you're going to hear your gunfire. That's typically when you're going to hear the sideshows and the street racing. That's good to know that there is some improvement, and we hope that that continues.
What do you mean by special deployment? Increased deployment? What do you mean by special deployment?
There were two pieces, and I'll lean on the officers. One, there were specific officers being dedicated for the sideshows and street racing. And then for the special deployment, is that additional officers? It is additional officers to tackle that. And typically when summer rolls around, the city then will start to look at some of the houseless camps and start to do that cleanup. But as we know here in Waldo, and it's not unique for us, that those camps are now year-round, and they do present a hazard, especially if they're on private property where they shouldn't be. There is a tremendous amount of trash, biohazards in those encampments, and so the city is taking an increased effort to start those cleanups earlier than normal.
So just on that topic, just if you guys happen to see a houseless camp, whether it's 110, 210, 311 is the number that you call to report that. Once the city gets a hold of that, then they start a process where we'll get called out first just to see, to confirm that there is a houseless camp. And then the city will come out and they'll send out resources for these people. Say, hey, do you need a place to stay? Do you need a job? Or rehab? Is there any mental health history that we need to be aware of? And then they are told that you have, it's usually about a month to, you're going to have to either relocate or come 8 a.m. the city will come in and they'll start cleaning up. So that's something new that we started doing, is we're actually trying to help them get back on their feet. We're offering all these resources. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of them would rather live the way that they are.
And this is a large project,
Yeah.
and it is driven by the city manager's office. And we are, law enforcement is just one cog in that entire wheel. They call it clearance and closure. And it is a long process, ensuring, again, like you said, that the camps are notified, resources are offered, deployed, but there is a cutoff date. And signs are posted, and they're informed that up to this point, and even the day of closure, oftentimes will be resources that are available. And this is on city property only, city or land bank property. Private property is a different thing. We need the cooperation of the property owner. But when it comes to city-owned property or land bank property, which is a subset of city-owned property, there's that collaboration that first must be initiated by the city. We don't have the authority to essentially evict somebody off of city property. That's for basically those city officials through the city manager's office, public works and neighborhoods. And we are another person in that family that helps facilitate the clearance and closure.
Good points.
That's a 311 initiated component. Now, if there's an emergency, if there's something you see going on in a camp that is life-threatening, then yes, call 911.
There are efforts underway to start using drones and GPS location devices, correct? It wasn't to much degree talked about as to how or when or what, but those were topics of discussion. Could a drone be a first responder? Instead of having an officer there, there could be an evaluation of what's going on via a drone that would then be able to direct the police to say more resources are needed immediately versus just dispatching an officer and it was not necessarily life-threatening. So increasing the use of technology is coming, and we'll hopefully hear more about that with our monthly meetings. So in conclusion, I know I'm running just a little bit long. You're here because you care, right? I don't think anybody woke up and just said, I'm going to wander the library and go to the neighborhood associating meeting just because. You're here because you love where you live and you want to make it better and you want to take a proactive role. We can do this. There are going to be challenges, right? We're challenged. Do we always give you the information that you need in a timely manner? Well, sometimes we try, but we're going to do better. I'm committing to it, and I know our board members want that to happen. So look for increased communication with more detail as we post it on our website, on our social media, and in these meetings.
I was just going to say that's a great segue to the other topic that we wanted to touch on today, which is the PIAC cycle, the annual PIAC cycle that is beginning to open up right now. PIAC stands for Public Improvements Advisory Committee. It is a long-standing program within the city of Kansas City, Missouri, where a dedicated portion of the general fund is allocated for use on public improvements. So this cannot go to private property. It can't go to private business property. This is public property that allows the community, even an individual constituent resident in the city, to ask for a specific project or improvement to be funded. It's incredibly competitive. I'll talk about it a little bit today, but we just wanted to highlight the fact that the annual cycle is beginning to open up. One of the most important things you can do to help advocate for your project is to get a group of people to show that there's a widespread interest in it, but also to go to the in-person hearings so that you can speak directly to the council members who will be choosing which of these projects gets funded. There are always dozens and dozens and dozens of percents of projects more than the funding. So I think, so each district gets around $5 million to be allocated for the projects that the council members and their support staff select, but they usually get 20 or $30 million worth of requests. So it is incredibly difficult to make those decisions. I've been doing PIAC projects as a neighborhood person for a long time. I've been able to actually get over $1 million in funding, but that's not because I'm sort of a magician, but just that I got used to doing the process, and my neighborhood at the time standardized on how we selected them and who presented them and what kind of information we provided behind them. So each council district has 2 hearings, I believe. In the past couple of years, they've gone to having one with virtual options and one that's wholly in person. We'll see what the format is that rolls out this year. But you get to stand in front of the council members and their PIAC reps who serve on the committee and say, we really want you to put speed bumps on this street, and this is why. We really want you to do sidewalks in this neighborhood, and this is why. But also, we really want crosswalks. The Gregory Street improvement, whether you love it or not, is one of the projects that I initiated, and that was largely due to the number of folks in my neighborhood. I used to live in Armour Hills, that talked a lot about it being a Frogger game to get to McLean's. We really want, as a community, for organizations and businesses like McLean's, like City Barrel and others, to be successful, and people need to be able to get to them safely. During that process, the city did a speed survey on that street and found that there was non-emergency traffic approaching 60 miles an hour. That kind of data helped us to demonstrate that that would be a good improvement. And so you got the hawk signals. That's just one example. There are lots of others. If you're interested, if you have an idea, come let us know. Email info@waldotower.org. Did I get that? Yeah. Because the neighborhood organization also gets behind projects, either formally or informally through a letter of support. Tower Park is one of the public spaces within the Waldo Tower neighborhood that can be improved by PIAC grants. We've had some folks come to us and say they have some ideas and there's some concerns there. So that's maybe a topic that will develop over time. But that's what PIAC is. This process happens through the summer, and all of the applications have to be in with the city by the end of August 30th, I think it is. So any questions on PIAC, Lenny?
So similarly, my neighbor is really concerned about all the things that are coming out of the South Oak Park. So we're interested in getting together if anyone else is a fan of the South Oak Park, trying to get the slide put back in that's been taken out, and getting some signatures for that. So,
yep, I just heard about the slide thing. Yes, so many of the park projects, and we talked about this in our board meeting, many of the park projects start with a PIAC request for the city to fund a master plan study. Who's using the park, what's the age and the quality and condition of the park amenities. Sometimes that's playgrounds, sometimes that's tennis courts, whatever that might be. They put all that information together in a study, and then from there, the community can sort of follow on with subsequent requests to champion individual improvements. So, yeah.
I will say too, so I've been doing 311 requests for a storm drain that hasn't been getting emptied. And repeatedly I put in the 311 requests again and again and again. And finally they said, the city doesn't recognize that storm drain. This is a great fit for a PIAC request. So I put in the PIAC request and it actually got approved to take out the storm drain and regrade the road so the water should flow out of that area. So that's a really exciting result of that. Like that's $50,000.
Yes. It is unique to Kansas City. It is a way for you as an individual resident to tell the city, I think you should invest in this amenity, as opposed to having everything being driven from top down. So, yeah. Any questions? I think we only have one other formal item on the agenda, but do we want to ask for questions? Any other topics that you'd like to hear from us at these meetings in the future? Any specific reason that you came other than maybe following up on? Yeah. So I can. So I do know a couple of things. So the project is, the entire thing is slated to be finished in October of this year. I just read something, Frank or Elizabeth, there's the current reconstruction is I don't want to use it, the schedule set aside kind of a quiet period right now for something. I just read this. Does anybody remember seeing that? I thought it was, it might actually have been that big run, the CCVI run. And so there was this wasn't a mistake or anything, there was an acknowledged quiet period for the last couple of weeks, and then the construction will move forward. The 75th and Warnell components, the trolley trail extension, the parking lots, all of that is complete. The two remaining sections of the project to do are the reconstruction of Warnell from 75th to 79th, and then the final piece, which is from Gregory to, I believe it's 74th Terrace. Those are the two things that will be happening in stages between now. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Linnea, she's nodding, but it's you that asked. Those are the two things that will be happening through the summer, culminating in October this year, and then it should be finished. Yes. I could talk about that for a really long time. I'm going to give you a short answer, and I'm happy to stay for a little bit and talk to you a little bit more about that. So I've been on the Trolley Trail Advisory Committee, actually the Country Club Right-of-Way Advisory Committee, for a couple of decades, it seems like, at least 15 years. And there's a couple of reasons that it is not paved and why certain sections are unlikely to ever be paved. One of them has to do with the kinds of activities that are done there in terms of making it amenable for walking and recreational biking in addition to more high-speed biking and sometimes the conflicts there, but also the long-term maintenance of pavement there's no funding for that. So once you pave it, it's going to immediately crack and require ongoing, and that's something that, because the trail itself doesn't have a funding mechanism, has always been out of reach. So paving an entire trail, the Country Club right-of-way and the trolley trail itself runs all the way down to Dodson. And so the areas that are paved were in response to very targeted high erosion areas that the trail surface that was originally designed couldn't be maintained. But happy. It is. Happy to talk to you more about that, because we do need some attention back on that original plan and maintenance. But that there's kind of a short answer of why not all of it's paved. Yeah. Anything else? Well, it feels a little awkward to introduce myself, but I'll go ahead and do that. So the last thing that we have on our list of topics today is I had asked my fellow board members if I could have about 10 minutes to introduce and announce my formal candidacy for the 6th District at-large seat. This will be in the 2027 spring elections. That seat is currently held by Councilwoman Boo, and she is termed out this cycle. I have run once before. It's a fun process, and I'm looking forward to that. I have my first endorsement, which is from AFT, the Teachers Union. I am a member of the Teachers Union. I am currently working for the school district as a substitute teacher. But what I want you to know is, one, right now, I'm not going to stand in front of you and say, here's my agenda, here's the things I'm mad about, and this is why I'm running, because Frank's got the potholes covered, and right. But that I have been working in this space as a neighborhood person, not just for my neighborhood, but for neighborhoods and the folks that live in the city from north to south for almost 20 years. It's past 15 years, I need to do the math. And what I've always been focused on is what it's like to live in Kansas City. That's going to always be my priority. What is quality of life? So when we talk about things like crime, when we talk about things like street projects, making sure that we have long-term vision for the folks who live in Kansas City, and that we are always making sure that the investments, the priorities, the focus, make sure that that is our core mission as we add. We will always need to develop. We will always need to modernize. Our city has to continue to grow and to be attractive to new generations, changes in time that happen in both business and public and private sectors. But we do need leadership, and we do need public servants who want to be in those roles to make sure that those decisions include and prioritize those of you that live here in Kansas City. That's what I've always done, and that's what I continue to do, and it's what I'd like to do if you were to choose to elect me in 2027. So thank you very much for that. There'll be lots more things, and yes, I'll put stuff in your mailbox. But right now, I just wanted to introduce myself in that way so that you can begin to think about that, even though it seems like it's a long ways out. It'll get here quicker than you might imagine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think that formally concludes our meeting today, but if you have additional questions on any of the topics we discussed, I'm sure that we're happy to accommodate.